We begin with the international uproar after North Korea test-launched a long-range rocket and the greater foreign policy implications. North Korea says it's an experiment to put a satellite into space, but the U.S., Japan, and South Korea are among the nations that fear that this is a step toward the secretive nation launching a long-range nuclear weapon. North Korea, of course, part of what's been infamously dubbed the axis of evil. It was President George W. Bush that first put the label on the group of countries during his State of the Union speech back in 2002.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world. By seeking weapons of mass destruction, these regimes pose a grave and growing danger.
Well, North Korea, Iran, and Iraq make up this axis. And Ambassador John Bolton took it a step further and deemed 3 more nations as part of this axis. He said, quote, "Beyond the axis of evil, there are other rogue states intent on acquiring weapons of mass destruction, particularly biological weapons. First, Libya. There is no doubt that Libya continues its long-standing pursuit of nuclear weapons. The United States also knows that Syria has long had a chemical warfare program. It has a stockpile of the nerve agent sarin, and is engaged in research and development of the more toxic and persistent nerve agent, VX." Well, he goes on to add Cuba to that list, and well, that was in the Bush era, back in the Bush era, and here we are today, weeks away from President Obama's inauguration to his second term as president, and the Nobel Peace Prize winner campaigned under the promise of hope and change and presented himself as the anti-Bush.
Our Iran policy is a complete failure right now. And that's the policy that John McCain is running on. He has nothing to offer except the naive and irresponsible belief that tough talk from Washington will somehow cause Iran to give up its nuclear program and support for terrorism. I'm running for president to change course, not to continue George Bush's course.
Well, despite the promise to put the country on a different track than his predecessor, is he really much different? We've heard some of the same fears echoed in the Obama administration these past few weeks. Listen to Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta saying almost the exact same thing as former Ambassador Bolton when it comes to Syria harboring weapons.
The whole world is watching very closely, and the President of the United States has made very clear that there will be consequences. There will be consequences if the Assad regime makes a terrible mistake by using these chemical weapons on their own people.
Well, it was President Bush that launched the war on terror, but President Obama kept it going and kicked it up a notch, targeted killings, state secrets, the NSA spying on citizens, Guantanamo Bay, all of this happening to a heightened degree under President Obama. And drones seem to be President Obama's weapon of choice. The use of them spiked under his administration. Obama authorized 283 strikes in Pakistan. That's 6 times more than Bush. Drone deaths under Obama are 4 times higher than under Bush. And this chart here puts it into perspective. We see during the Bush years, strikes were minimal, but then you see them skyrocket after Obama was elected. The peak, as you can see, being in 2010. And while it decreased since then, it's still much higher this year than it ever was under Bush. So despite the promise to take a drastically different foreign policy approach, instead, it seems when Obama's foreign policy doesn't mirror that of Bush, it actually takes it a step further. And the axis of evil remains just as much of a threat today under President Obama.